Critical challenge, those who are involved in this process, you must be knowing, that we have to hunt for adverse drug reactions from the case files, from the prescriptions. Nothing is written. If written, very small information, before and after, very less information. So it is very difficult for us to judge and assess about the adverse drug paper, and then we give that for publication. When the paper is published, perhaps the paper will be published after 1 year. There is time lag between the actual occurrence of the ADR and then final publication and reporting. So this is also, I find, that one of the challenges of pharmacovigilance. Over-the-counter drugs use is rampant in India, and what is happening thereafter, we don't have any data for over-the-counter drugs. So whichever pharmacovigilance program is going on, be it PVPI, be it whatever it was, I think there should be a separate policy and a very strict policy on over-the-counter drugs. Herbal medicines, we all know, and that was a myth, that herbal medicines or complementary and alternative medicine, they don't have any bad effect, or in an exact composition and exact action of the ingredients are not known. Thus, there is irrational use of herbal and traditional medicines which are causing serious problem and concern from safety point of view. And because of that myth that it doesn't cause any bad effect or side effect, people are using of their own self-medication. So don't you think that this is also a challenge for us? It is a reward if you get so. Or any research assistant, if you get so, it is again a reward. Otherwise, it is going on in a shared basis. And if you look into the report development, it starts from identifying an ADR either from phone call, spontaneous reporting, or by active surveillance, and then collection, then processing, review, signal detection, causality, and then finally report writing. It is a long process for one ADR. It's not so easy. Now the last challenge of unaddressed area. Most of the centers are associated with medical colleges, and with all these challenges, we always forget that most of the medical, right from clinicians, if everybody takes it up as their own responsibility, then I think this can never be an unaddressed area. So the way ahead is a long and mountainous, and there is a need for better integration of pharmacovigilance into clinical practice and public policy.
Tikramsad Medical College, Anand, Gujarat, and as I told you that she is also an alumnus of our medical college. So once again I thank Dr. Barna Ganguly, and afterwards we'll have a question from her. So our next speaker is Professor S.K. Tripathi. S.K. Tripathi is very active in the field of pharmacology and involved in teaching and research for the last many years. He is in the Kolkata Medical College and also
That's up to the people who are going to evaluate that. But at the same time, we know drugs are used for the benefit, but because it's not as selective as it is, it should be, or information that somebody who was treating a patient, he has suspected, and the suspicion bears lot of significance, lot of importance. So it becomes a professional obligation for the healthcare professionals also, besides reporting an adverse event case as requested or required by the relevant health authorities, they may also elect to submit the observation to a biomedical journal for publication. We have discussed there, it might be the motive might be, or the may try to find out from the literature whether similar kind of association is already published, and that can also help in taking a regulatory decision. Coming to who publishes, the denominator, that is the number of patients who is exposed to that particular drug. And there is always a possibility of systematic confounding bias. Causality is not clearly stated. Pharmacological acceptability will be less. The journal.
Thank you, Professor S.K. Tripathi, for delivering a very interesting to publish the paper on the adverse regulation. So, thank you, sir. Next speaker is Dr. Manoj Sharma. He is the head of the Global Pharmacovigilance Division in the Panacea Biotech Limited. So, we invited actually the one speaker from the industry. So, he is Dr. Manoj Sharma. And we request him to try to finish within a time, because after that we'll have panel discussion.
All my colleagues and dignitaries sitting in the dais. First of all, let me thank the SOPI, the organizers of the SOPI, Dr. Zia, Professor K.C. Singhal Saab, Professor Tripathi Saab, Professor Ganguly, for giving me an opportunity to deliver a presentation on the safety monitoring during clinical trials. As Dr. Zia said that I need to be finished on time, well, this is very much crucial to get it finished on time, because in clinical trials, of course, we experience the serious unexpected areas, and they have to be reported in time. So from that perspective, I will definitely manage my time. Thank you. Well, so just a disclaimer that the views are mine. Then this is the overview of the presentation. That is, we'll be having a background on what is the clinical trial, why do we need it, then of course, what are the clinical trial regulations in India, and what are the responsibilities of the stakeholders like sponsors, patients, and then of course, what are the reporting requirements in the Indian, for the regulatory, in the Indian regulations. Now before going ahead, we all know that India is incredible. If you go to Delhi and if you look near to All India Institute of Medical Sciences, there is a clock that shows you the population, the growth of the population that is going on. Clinical data that is being generated from the Indian population, and which is accepted there also for the regulatory trials. The nearly fourth largest exported by volume of drugs and biologics, especially generics to the US. And I'm willing to share data that every eighth child in the world companies to conduct the clinical trial in India. So when the clinical trial are getting conducted, so definitely there are
As you know that Professor Singhal sir is the Vice Chancellor of the NIMS University, so from administrative point of view, he can answer Manoj Sharma.
Ethics committee separately, individually, they are to send their report to DCGI and then this position. The problem is for relatedness assessment, and when you talk of relatedness assessment, how can you differentiate this from the standard causality assessment? In causality, there are 5 or 6 different grades, and in relatedness assessment is by
lowest rate of resilience, causal relationship, but it is deemed as a causal effect. So the conversation is not decided whether it is possible and associated with some of the comorbid factors also, with the patient already has a medical history like that. So even these liable to be paid the compensation.
Actually, collection of detailed reports and we faced pretty much the problem from the clinicians because they are pretty reluctant. So I was always thinking that is a possibility of some regulations or mandatory regulations reports and so on.
Are reluctant, and we have, if you see the causes of reluctance, I have mentioned in my one of the slides, lack of time, and for them it is not serious. Number 2, with Pharmacovigilance Program of India.
Yes, that I think that.
Then only I think we can overcome this thing. So that's why often the onus goes to Department of Pharmacology or the department who is running the center.
One more thing.
Because see, for clinicians, more involvement in our institution when Dr. Bharat Gajjar was the coordinator of National Pharmacovigilance.
And another thing is that the clinicians, they are interested in reporting only the serious adverse events, not that much serious.
That is the
underreported.
See, the clinicians take it as a serious adverse event. They either take it as a part of the disease drug, and then even then they immediately they prescribe the remedy or cure. Either they stop the drug.
An idea if you are suspicious. So in that way, I think the physician will also.
Good morning. Senior Vice President for the Apollo Group of Hospitals and more proudly an old student, 1990 batch of JNMC.
Oh, wonderful.
He's an alumnus of our colleges, very intelligent.
Welcome back.
Thank you very much. Yes. Nari is after the name of his mother-in-law.
I'm staying here at the moment.
See how strange life is from Melbourne.
It was very kind to invite me.
Mary is British?
Yes, she.
Hello, how are you? हाँ मैं भी उस दिन बैठा बैठा सोच रहा था कि क्या चल रही होगी आज यहाँ था नहीं तो मैं आता ज़रूर
Then we can start our oration because after this oration we have a normal function. All the respective delegates, please come inside. Thank you so much. So we begin our first oration. This is one of the prestigious oration of our Society of Pharmacovigilance India. I all our founder members. And one of the founder member is Dr. John Hardy, and another founder member is Professor K. Singhal. So Professor K. Singhal oration will be delivered tomorrow by another guest speaker, Professor Eugene Van Dutenberg. And this John Hardy oration Now I request Professor K.C. Singh sir to say a few words about John Ortian, after whom this commission is making.
Aligarh faculty for the Conference of Association of Visualization Conference of India. Thereafter, he visited AMU and has visited 54 times in his life for giving talks, having a oration in his name. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for letting us know about Professor John Ortian, after whom this oration was started since the beginning of this SOPI. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Professor Noel E. Cranswick. Noel Cranswick is the director of the Australian Pediatric Pharmacology Research Unit and also the director of the Clinical Pharmacology, Royal Children's Hospital, Melbourne. He has been associated with the University of Melbourne. He is expert of Essential Medicine List, WHO, and he is also in the editorial board of this Essential Medicine List. He has particular interest in pediatric pharmacokinetics. He has investigated adverse drug reaction in variety of medicine.
Thank you very much to the Scientific Committee for the conference, to Professor Singhal, and especially to my friend and colleague, Dr. Said Rahman, and also thank you to my about drug safety in clinical trials, about drug safety in clinical practice, and then about what I think the future is. 10 children died after being injected with live tetanus as part of diphtheria. Drugs need to be tested to make sure that what is in them is what they say is in them. And that was the start of modern drug safety. Before that, there were no restrictions on who could sell what. And then after this, the FDA said what you say is in a formulation must be what's in it. And then that was fine until sulfur drugs, and sulfanilamide was one of them. And came as a powder. An industrial chemist in Kansas City found that the sulfanilamide was not soluble in water or alcohol. Why should we care? Well, adverse effects are important because they're unpredictable. They can be severe, as we heard by Trendy, and for the industry especially, they can be difficult to manage. You lose your market share, the drug gets withdrawn, and as we heard earlier today, you get sued. There's litigation. You don't know if it was the drug or not yet. We've already heard about what a serious adverse event is. It's very important. It must be reported early and can stop a clinical trial. This is different to adverse drug reactions that occur in A, predictable, or B, as being unpredictable. And then we look at causality using one of the scales. And I've listed those in any detail today. What I do want to do is tell you about a few drugs where the industry and it was a constitutional lockout. And they intended it to be used for antihypertensive hypertension. And during my PhD, I was studying this drug. And then suddenly, the drug was withdrawn in 1998. And the reason was that it interacted with way a lot of drugs. You can see this whole list of drugs. He was aware of this well before they developed the marketing of the drug, but they persisted in putting the drug to market. And because of this, they lost over $1 billion. People very rarely complain if the drug doesn't work. Sometimes the complaint involves repackaging. So most children who have fevers will get paracetamol, and most adults who have fever or pain will use paracetamol. And what we know is that overall paracetamol has a very low rate of side effects compared to most medicines. If you take paracetamol at a normal, and in children they produce the sulfate, and adults produce mostly the glucuronide. And by glutathione, and then it's cleared in the kidney, but if you make too much of it, you can't clear it, and then you get liver toxicity and you die. And
काम हुआ नहीं, ऐसे हमने इम्प्रोवाइज कर